today we are going to show you how to weight paint. So in the last video I showed you how to make this rig, and so that is where we are at so far. So today we're going to make this rig usable, so you can pose your Pokemon or animate it if you wish to. And yeah, so what weight painting is what we're going to do is going to assign every one of these vertices, which is the corners, to a bone. So when that bone moves, it will drag that part of the body with it, and then the faces will distort plastically to make that happen. And so what will happen is anything will stretch, and it will be nice and lifelike. But things shouldn't go too... If you're thinking that you're going to rip the body in half, this won't happen. It doesn't look stupid. It sounds stupid, but it works pretty well. So what we're first off going to do is we're going to need to go into object mode. First off, we're going to select the model, and then we're going to press Shift and right click the skeleton, and Alt P. Not Alt P. Press Control P. Sorry about that. Now this will pop up this menu. Now all this I've come off it, so Control P again. All this pops up, but what you want is the armature deform with empty groups. So we're going to click on this option here with empty groups, and I will show you what that's done now. So if we go to the model and go to edit mode of the model, we'll see that this in the properties pane, you'll see along here just after the wrench for modifiers, you'll see this sort of triangle. And that is for vertex groups. Now I just press A when hovering over each of these enlarged subsections. So we're going to collapse them because A is the shortcut for collapsing. And we've got a whole bunch of things. And this is the biggest reason to name all your bones, because these are all the bones here. Now, we don't want the root, so we can get rid of that straight away. The root isn't to be parented. Isn't to have any vertices with it. It has things subsequently paired to it, and that's how it works. So what happens is if you move a bone upstream or higher up the chain, it will affect everything lower down. It will affect all the bones lower down the chain if they're set up in this way, and then that subsequently will move those vertices so the arm won't like shatter or something like that. And we've got another root as well. We've got the root body, so we get rid of both of those. Now personally, my method is working from out to in. I find that the best way. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the extremities, and unfortunately though, there is no way of flipping this from one side to the other, so whoever's lazy, sorry. Now a really useful tool is the box select, and to use Z or the wireframe. So I'm going to start off with the right hand first, or the right arm 4. I can press B, box select, and that's all of that. That's done in one. Then if I find it here, I've got right toes, right foot, right arm. Here's right arm 4. And then when I go into this, I'm going to press this button down the bottom, which is assign. This will assign these vertices to that bone, and I'm going to lock that bone so I know I've done it. You don't have to lock it. But I use the lock so I know what I've done. Now I'm going to press B, and after I press B, I'm going to hold the Shift key, and that will actually deselect everything that I draw my box around it. Make sure you don't press Shift and then B, because that will give you this, where you won't be able to click, and it will zoom you in when you let go of Shift and draw the box. So it's B and then Shift. B and then Shift. Okay. So now I'm going to just slightly orbit the very tiniest amount, so these are all in line. I'm going to press B, and this time not hold Shift, so I'm selecting extra stuff. I can just move up. I press Shift, push my mouse wheel in and scroll up, and then I can get a better view of these vertices and just draw a nice rough box, and get all that selected. So this is the biggest reason that I get the points between or on these edge lines, so that makes this an easier process. So this is the right arm 3, assign, and then I've got Shift, after I press B, and I can just deselect all of that all in one go. And then I'll actually use my Alt here, and Alt Shift, and be able to select that whole ring. And that's arm 2. Alt Shift, and that's arm 1. Now you'll notice, because this is funky, as I said before, I'm not going to select this. I'm going to leave this as part of the upper body, and that will allow that will prevent this part of the model ever ripping out, so there'll never be a cleavage. When I say cleavage, I mean a break, or it won't cleave a gap. I don't know how else to put this. Because if I was to pull it out, there would be a crack in the model, and that's not something you want to see. So I'm going to press Shift Alt again just to select those 2 bits, and then I'm going to assign that to left arm 1. Now it's really useful to do the right arm then the left arm, because you remembered exactly what points you did the stoppage. I just screwed all that up, so I'm going to press A and deselect everything. Shift Alt. See, so when you press Shift Alt, the reason I don't use it all the time is that if you select a vertical thing, it will select all along the vertical. If you select it correctly horizontally, you'll get all the horizontal. But if you go too near the vertice, it sometimes gets a bit dubious, which is why I'm not a huge fan of it. But I still use it from here and there. So I'm going to just assign them and just get rid. Oh, sorry about that. I do not know what I just did there. I just want to pull this up. Oh, what have I done? Back to previous. So I just pressed some shortcut by accident. B Shift, select all that, and then I want to select all of this, and press full stop on my number pad, and that's the last vertice. That makes sure I got all that. Yep. That's arm 3, and Shift after I press B for the box, and assign that as arm 4. I'm going to lock these 2. Now, because this is quite boring, I'm going to quickly show you what this has done. Now, if I go back to object mode, select on the skeleton, and press tab again, I will now be in edit mode of the skeleton. Now, if you change up to the pose mode, you need to do that manually. The tab won't want you to go easily between them until you've first chosen pose mode manually once. Now I will be able to move these bones, and subsequently the arm will move. So that's a bit, I don't want to do location. Location isn't a great thing. So if you do want to use these on-screen things, which I rarely do now, you would want to choose these manipulators. So down here's the manipulator list. You can press this to turn off manipulator altogether. If you press it again, you'll turn on the manipulator. You'll notice this arrow, which is location, is blued out. That's because I've got it on. I can press Shift and select this and add this, and Shift again, and this third one is the scale, or I can have none of them, or one of them, or this one, or these 2, and by a combination of pressing Shift and clicking, you will be able to select between them. And then if you choose the green, you'll do whatever that action is along the y-axis, blue along the z-axis, and X along the x-axis. But what I personally use, although I do keep this ball on because I think that's useful to show the axes in a better way, I press R for rotation, and you'll notice I have this free rotation. Now I don't use that. I press R and then X, for example, to do it along the x-axis, and then X again. This is now the x-axis relative to this bone, so it'll look more natural because you don't move your arms relative to the global axes. Gonna need to get that word right. You don't move your arms relative to the global axes. You move them relative to your other parts of the arm. So that's why this RXX or RYY or RZZ is useful. So that's an RZZ. There's an RYY. That goes from base to tip. And sometimes you can just play around. You don't need to use those. But that's a little example of what we're now able to do with this. Just 1x with this rig. So we're going to continue from here. We're going to go back, not have our fun. I'm going to go back to this. So we've got our 2 arms. Next is the two ears, which will take very short time. So we're going to start with the right ear, which is this ear here. We're going to go into wireframe, and we're just going to box select all of that. Brilliant, just checked it. And where is it? Right ear 1. Right ear 2. Right ear 2. Assign. I'm going to lock it. And then we'll just get, I can select these ones manually. Select these two manually. And then right ear 1. And then the other side. And so this is going to be the left ear, or the left ear relative to the model. You should always do it relative to the model. So left ear 1. There we go. And then get rid of that. I'm going to box select up here. And that's left ear 2. So now you'll be able to see what I've got left. So I've got the upper body left, and then the lower body and all the legs. So I'm going to start with this foot, or the toe joint even. I'm going to go back to solid mode by pressing Z, because I want to make sure I select exactly what I want. I'm going to call that the toe joint, that bit there. So those 4 faces, I'm going to call that the toes. So that's the left toe. And the reason I mainly use the extremities in is so that the very final parts I can make sure I select everything I need, because that's usually the most complicated bit where everything joins together. So what's left over, I'll be able to select everything and then deselect every group, and then what's remainder is what's up for grabs for the final 2. So that's that piece there. Left foot, assign, and then I'll go into full stop, 5, and then Z again, B, shift, draw the box of deselecting, and then that's actually quite a cool name, box of deselecting. Well, depends on what you think, but I think it's a relatively cool name tool. If it was actually called that, I'm sure it's got its proper name. And yeah, so we're going to select that lower leg, or leg 2, and we've just got the leg 1 now to do, which will be that final overlap into the body. I'm going to have to press 5 again to go into the normal 3D view, and I'm going to have to go back into wireframe even. Follow that line there, there. Oh no, there. Get that. Deselect that. So that looks right, and then I've got these to deselect. Yep, that looks right, and then that's left leg 1. So that's all left leg done, and then this is especially why I like to do leg by leg. So now I remember that it was only these ones. For example, if I was to have done this 10 minutes ago, I might not know if I included these 2 vertices up there. So I'm probably still actually going to need to check the foot one. So I'm just going to select those. Now remember, on wireframe mode, you can't go through. You can only select what you see, or you can always only select what you can see. So I can't see the vertices on the other side of the mesh because the mesh is in the way. So I won't be able to select those even if I select where those would be. Alright, that's that foot done. And then right foot, and assign these 2. Oh no, I actually unlocked that. Then I'm just going to go over here and look at the left leg 1. I'm going to choose the select, and I have actually got this whole black piece. So I'm now going to deselect, and then right leg 2, and then I'll try use my alt trick. Why don't we try that? Easy as pie. So in some cases it can be really useful. And then alt shift to deselect. I actually got too close there and deselected that. And then the alt. Oh no, I press space. Don't want to do that. Get out. There we go. So all that's selected, and now that's the right leg 1. So what I'm going to do now for the final 2 is I'm going to press A to select all of them. I'm going to press Z to go into the wireframe. Now I'm going to press 1 and 5 and then full stop on my number pad to get to this beautiful view here. Now I'm just going to go along this list, choose the first one, deselect. And I'm literally just going to do this all the way, because that will ensure that if I missed anything, I will see that I missed it, and otherwise every single vertice will have a parent, because if a vertice is left behind, when the rest of the body moves, that corner will stay where it is and it will be ripped apart. It will look very strange, almost as strange as these arms look in this view here. They look very odd. I didn't lock this. And by locking them, you also are unable to remove or assign groups, assign vertices. I don't think I mentioned that if you select vertices with an unlocked thing and press remove, it will remove those vertices from that group if they were before in that group. So I'm now going to go to upper body and assign all of this to upper body. I know it's not all upper body. I'm not stupid. Okay, so now I'm going to press B. I'm going to use the shift key so that I know my box is going to deselect. I'm going to deselect all of this. So this is all of the lower body. Everything here should be selected to the lower body. So I'm going to now go to lower body and assign this and lock. Now I'm going to go to my upper body and press select. This will redo that exact same selection. I'll press B and I'm going to deselect all this. Now I remember just from a few seconds ago that these tops of the leg were in the lower body, and I don't want them in both. Don't want to complicate the matter, so I'm just going to manually clip towards the body, possibly clip into it, and yep, I've clipped into it. I'm looking down on it. I can press B and press shift and safely use the box tool to deselect all of that without picking up any other vertices, and now I can assign all of this to here. Now if I'm correct, I didn't. Yeah, I was very stupid right there, but it allows me to actually show you another method. I didn't first remove, so first I need to remove, so now there's nothing selected to the upper body. The other method you can use is to go to the lower body, deselect, and then I want these, this is sort of the converse way to do it. I want this line, so I can use my Alt trick again and shift and try to get all of these. And I've got it all the way around now, and now I can just assign that to the upper body. And now my wake painting is complete. So the way I check this usually, if I just go into front view, proper 3D mode. Now we're going to go over to the animation layout. So if you press this button here and choose animation, this is the animation layout. Now when you go into the animation layout, if you have applied a texture like I did, actually I'll show you how to do that. If you have applied a texture though, you will need to tell this mode, this 3D window, to use the textured solid. So if you wanted to apply a texture, I just realised I haven't told you how to do this. You want to go into edit mode of the mesh you want to apply the texture to. You want to select all the vertices. Then you want to choose this. You want to go to UV/image editor, and if the model was unwrapped, it will all the vertices would be here. If it's not unwrapped, you've actually got to pull up this, go to this and unwrap, and then move every face where you want it to be, and then in a separate program, or in fact in Blender, draw a picture which should line up. So for example, this rectangle here represents this rectangle here. No, it's this rectangle here I'm hovering over with my crosshairs, and the middle one is this one here. And then other places where it's got a solid white colour, a whole bunch of stuff has been just chucked on top of this. Yeah. So then once you've got this and it's unwrapped, you can just do image, open image, and then choose it. Once again, if this model that you've got was unwrapped beforehand, it will remain the unwrapping even, and you are also able to change that. That's a more modeler type thing, but I just wanted to make sure you knew how to do that. So now we're in the animation thing. We just want to go to object mode, and we're going to select the bones, and it's going to take us straight to pose mode. Another thing we're going to do actually is going to go back to object mode, and we can choose this mode here, smooth, because it looks better, and it sort of fakes more vertices. So yeah, We're going to take over more from this in the next video, which will be on animation. But as you can see, to check, I can just grab the root and press G, and I can press Z. And if I move it, no part of the body is left behind. So I can press Ctrl Z, and that means all my weight painting has worked brilliantly. So thank you all for watching. This is the end of the rigging, so it's completely rigged, and this is now completely 100% ready to be thrown into the animation, and we'll be able to animate this to a nice little idle cycle. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.